from the marriage life, that is from the Grihastha life, she will be moving into the Vanaprastha stage. So that was the condition given, for which Swayambhuva and Kardama, that is Kardama when he was instructing, it was agreed by Devahuti also. So Devahuti is not like a modern girls putting so much of conditions before marrying, but she was very much attracted with Kardama Muni and she wanted to marry. So after producing 9 child and he was about to leave, and that is the time Devahuti was putting a condition, requesting, pleading Kardama Muni that you have been performing the devotional service very well. So all these years I have been serving you only. So how I will be getting liberated from this material contamination? So she was pleading and she was requesting that you have to give me a son, Putra, because Putra is one who is releasing from this hellish condition of material life. So that is how Kapila Deva, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, himself was appearing as Kapila Deva to Devahuti and Kardama Muni. So here we are going to understand, because in the previous verse, the Lord was explaining about the path of self-realization. Devahuti wanted to understand about the devotional service, how she can gain knowledge to get away from this material life. So the Supreme Lord was giving, you must have heard from various speakers about different type of instructions, which are for this materially contaminated people like us. So how to perform bhakti and all. So Kardama Muni was giving so much of instruction. And in the previous verse, he was explaining the path of self-realization. And he is telling that self-realization, practicing self-realization is very, very easy. And it can be performed without any difficulty. So that is the thing he was giving the instruction to his mother. So now we are going to understand the subsequent verses. So we will be understanding from verses 11 to 16 today. So basically, these 6 verses are going to give us 3 different type of meanings. Basically, first 2 verses is the Supreme Lord, that is in the form of Kapila Dev, is going to give the final instruction to Devahuti and he is going to leave. Because the Lord is setting an example what a person in the material life has to do. So first 2 verses will be talking about the final instructions what Devahuti is receiving from Kapila Dev. And then verse number 13 and 14, it is going to give us. Yes, Mataji, you have raised your hands.
For reading, Prabhuji, for reading the shlokas or meanings.
I'm just giving the basic background, Mataji. Let us go for the verses, okay? Because we are concentrating 6th dinner. So the second 2 verses are going, that is 13 and 14 are going to give you the understanding how Devahuti was practicing bhakti and how she was following the austerities, how she was detached and the form of meditation and all these things are explained in the next 2 verses. And 15 and 16 is going to talk about the affluence of Kardama Muni, which even the celestial girls were very much jealous on the setup and the affluence of Kardama Muni's palace, where now Devahuti is staying. So this is the understanding, a brief summary of understanding of the 6 verses. So now we will be reading first 2 verses, that is verses 11 and 12 we will be reading. And I'll give a brief introduction or brief description about what Srila Prabhupada has written in the purport. Then finally, from the entire 6 verses, what is that we are trying to learn? So I'll be reading the verses now. Shradat Svitan Matam Mahyam Jastam Yad Brahma Vadibi Yenamam Abhayam Yaya Mrityum Rashanti Atat Vidaha. So somebody can read the translation and the purport, because I don't want to repeat, because we have only 1 hour only. So let us read the translation and somebody can do the purport reading.
Param Prabha Mataji, please read the translation, and Vasudha Mataji can read purport.
Yeah. Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Danvat Pranam.
Hare Krishna.
Translation by Prabhupada ki Jai. My dear mother, those who are actually transcendentalists certainly follow my instructions as I have given them to you. You may rest assured that if you traverse this path of self realization perfectly, surely you shall be freed from fearful material contamination and shall ultimately reach me. Mother, persons who are not conversant with this method of devotional service certainly cannot get out of the circle of birth and death. Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Okay, we will be reading the next verse now. Verse number 12. Maitreyo vacha iti pradashya bhagavan satim tamatmano gatim shvamatra brahmavadinya kapilo anumato yayau. Translation and purport, please.
Translation. Dandavat Pranam Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
Translation. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Sri Maitreya said, the Supreme Personality of Godhead Kapila, after instructing his beloved mother, took permission from her and left his home, his mission having been fulfilled. Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Thank you very much.
You can read the purport also, Mataji.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Purport, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. The mission of the appearance of Supreme Personality of Godhead in the form of Kapila was to distribute the transcendental knowledge of Sankhya philosophy, which is full of devotional service. Having imparted that knowledge to his mother and through his mother to the world, Kapila had no more need to stay at home. So he took permission from her home and left. Apparently, he left home for spiritual realization, although he had nothing to realize spiritually, because he himself is the person to be spiritually realized. Therefore, this is an example set by the Supreme Personality of Godhead while acting like an ordinary human being so that others might learn from him. He could, of course, have stayed with his mother, but he indicated that there was no need to stay with the family. It is best to remain alone as a brahmachari, sannyasi, or vanaprastha and cultivate Krishna consciousness throughout one's whole life. Those who are unable to remain alone are given license to live in household life with wife and children, not for sense gratification, but for cultivation of Krishna consciousness. Hare Krishna. Thank you very
Hare
much.
Krishna, Mataji. Thank you very much. So, in the first two verses of 11 and 12, so we need to understand who is a transcendentalist, because Kapila Dev is telling that a transcendentalist can very easily perform bhakti. We all know that who are all the transcendentalists, right? A person in the Jnana Marga, that is a Jnana Yoga and a yogic practice, one who is gaining knowledge, one who is doing a meditation, and one who is doing a devotional service, bhakta. So basically, these are all the people called as the transcendentalists. But how they are realizing the Supreme Lord, we all know that. Some of them wanted to merge with the Supreme, and some of them, they will be looking at a mediator range of devotional service, that is the Paramatma realization, which we call it as, whereas the Bhagavan realization is the pure devotional service. So in all these three forms, people can get liberated from the material world. But here, basically, what is the benefit all these three people, all these transcendentalists are getting it is, that is what in the purport Srila Prabhupada is mentioning, it gives us the fearlessness. What is a fear? Because always a materialist is fear of his name, fear of his fame, fear of his money, fear of his wealth, children, everything. Because whatever he's been attached to so much, so he is having so much of fear on those attachments. Maybe it is a temporary, he may not be having to maintain that for a long duration. Maybe somebody will take it out. So all this fearless, that is, the fear is going completely away if somebody is giving a proper understanding on the bhakti and they are performing it. So if somebody is practicing what Kapila Dev is giving instruction, because if you read all the previous verses and if you all read about the understanding of the mindset of Devahuti was having sort of a fear in the sense, she's not fear of her wealth taking away and all. She had a fear that what is going to happen for my life after because husband has already left. So she's having a fear So that is why here Kapila Dev is telling that if you practice, it is very easy for you. If you compare last 2-3 verses, he says it is very, very easy to perform this bhakti. And if you do that, you are completely understanding about the real truth, absolute truth. Absolute truth is what? Raja Vidya, Raja Guhyam, Pavitram Idam Uttamam. So that Raja Vidya, understanding about the self, understanding about the real truth, it comes to you, which releases you from the fearlessness. So that is what, even for us also, as deeply we are diving into the bhakti ocean and we are performing the bhakti, we are completely away from different type of fears. Everybody is having different type of fears in running our normal day-to-day operations. That is day-to-day life operations, we are doing it. So this fearlessness is automatically coming, and those who do not have any sort of taste or understanding about this bhakti, they will have terrific fear at the time of death. So that is what Prabhupada is writing, mentioning in so many other purport also, what is the situation of a person at the time of leaving the body. So these things are all completely getting rid of. So she has been trained perfectly. By practicing, she will be coming out from this fear and she will perform bhakti properly and she will reach the ultimate goal of any human being's life. In the next verse, the 12th verse, just Maitreya is informing Vidura, this conversation, that is, we need to understand why Maitreya and Vidura's conversation. So this conversation, Lord is taking the permission. The Lord is taking permission from the mother that she wanted to go. Even if you see, Kardama Muni was also taking the permission. If you have read that verses of Kardama Muni has not immediately left. He has been requesting permission from the wife. Not all of a sudden, one fine morning, he is just leaving without telling the wife. No, it is not happening like that with Kardama Muni also. Kardama Muni was taking permission, and that is the time Devagati was putting one more request, that you have to produce a male child for me, a son for me. And also in the purport, Srila Prabhupada is writing, whenever the Lord is taking any incarnation, he takes it for 3 purposes, right? One of the purposes is to establish the Dharma. And here, the Dharma what Kapila Dev is establishing is, he wanted to explain about the devotional service, because that is a devotional service. The instruction of the Supreme Lord is Dharma. No other instructions can be considered as a Dharma. Maybe you may be having a different Dharma, but what the Shastra says is, whatever the Supreme Lord is giving instruction is to be considered. And he is setting an example, because in this particular avatara, like even in the Krishna avatara, even in the Rama avatara, Lord Ramachandra, everybody has set an example as if they are performing the duty of a normal child only, normal son only. So Krishna also was performing a typical, but others were feeling that, oh, Krishna is doing some magic and all. But he was setting an example. When he married 16,100 queens and all, he was setting an example how a Grihastha life has to be performed. So that is why Narada Muni got astonished. Oh, how come this Supreme Lord is performing different activities to please the different wives? So similarly, here Kapila Dev is setting an example. A person in material life has to completely detach himself and has to go for a sort of a vanaprastha or a sannyasi stage. It doesn't mean that you need to completely leave sannyasa and all, but what even Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is advocating is, within this grihastha life, how we can come out from the attachment to the material sort of interest, and how we can perform and make all the members in the family in the devotional line, so everybody really understands the meaning. So in the purport, the Lord is setting an example for others, how they have to lead the life, so that the rarest form of the life, that is out of 84 lakh species of life, this is the rarest form, right? Only in this particular form, you can take a decision how you can stop the repeated birth and death, janma mrityu jara vyadi, how you can stop that and you can reach your eternal abode. So that is what a brief summary. So we'll be going deep into the various aspects of the 6 verses now. So we'll be reading verse number 13 and 14 now. So I'll be reading verse number 13. Sa chapi tanayokthena yoga deshena yogayu tashmin asrama apite sarashvatyaha samahita. Translation purport, please.
Sudha Mataji and Sunila Mataji. Translation and purport.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, pranams. Translation by His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada, Prabhupada ki jai. As instructed by her son, Devahuti also began to practice Bhakti Yoga in that very ashrama. She practiced Samadhi in the house of Kardama Muni, which was so beautifully decorated with flowers that it was considered the flower crown of the river Saraswati. Thank
Hare
you,
Krishna.
Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Purport by Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Devahuti did not leave her house because it is never recommended for a woman to leave her home. She is dependent. The very example of Devahuti was that when she was not married, she was under the care of her father, Swayambhuva Manu. And then Swayambhuva Manu gave her to Kardama Muni in charity. She was under the care of her husband in her youth. And then her son, Kapila Muni, was born. As soon as her son grew up, her husband left home, and similarly, the son, after discharging his duty towards his mother, also left. She could also have left home, but she did not. Rather, she remained at home and began to practice Bhakti Yoga as it was instructed by her great son Kapila Muni. And because of her practice of Bhakti Yoga, the entire home became just like a flower crown on the river Saraswati.
Hare Krishna. Sloka number 40. Abhikshnavaha kapishan jatilan putilalakan atmanam chogra tapasha vibrati chirinam krisam.
Shanti Mataji. Translation and Shamila Mataji.
Translation by Srila Prabhupada ki jai. She began to bathe 3 times daily, and thus her curling black hair gradually became grey. Due to austerity, her body gradually became thin, and she wore old garments. Thank you.
Hare Krishna. Purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. It is a practice of the yogi, brahmachari, vanaprastha and sannyasi to bathe at least 3 times daily, early in the morning, during noontime and in the evening. These principles are strictly followed even by some grahasthas, especially brahmanas, who are elevated in the spiritual consciousness. Devahuti was a king's daughter and almost a king's wife also. Although Kardama Muni was not a king, by his yogic mystic power, he accommodated Devahuti very comfortably in a nice palace with maid servants and all opulence. But since she had learned austerity even in the presence of her husband, there was no difficulty for her to be austere. Still, because her body underwent severe austerity, after the departure of her husband and son, she became thin. To be too fat is not very good for spiritually advanced life. Rather, one should reduce because if one becomes fat, it is an impediment to progress in spiritual understanding. One should be careful not to eat too much, sleep too much, or remain in a comfortable position, voluntarily accepting some penances and difficulties. One should take less food and less sleep. These are the procedures for practicing any kind of yoga, whether Bhakti Yoga, Jnana Yoga, or Hatha Yoga. Thank you, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. So that is what, though Kapila Deva and Kardama Muni left the house, here through this purport, Srila Prabhupada is clearly giving what Chaitanya Mahaprabhu as well as other acharyas are recommending, especially for this Kali Yuga. So she could have easily taken a decision of going out somewhere, maybe left her home and do the bhakti practice somewhere else. But here, she has not done that. All these years, she was completely dependent either on the husband or the son. And now she is staying alone and she is doing that bhakti. So this is what we need to also understand. So we are all with so much of responsibilities and so many things in our day-to-day life. So how we have to progress is, this is all an inspiration for us. So despite we are having so much of attachments with our family, so by practicing the attachment, it all will turn into only a duty. So we will not have any attachment as a mother, as a wife, as whatever it is. They have certain responsibilities to perform to the relatives of the family. So only those things they'll be performing. So they don't have to attach, oh, if I am not here, what will happen to my husband? What will happen to my son? So I have to be with them. I have to feed them. I have to do everything. No, you simply perform your duty only. But at the same time, look at, because you have to take care of yourself, because when we are leaving the body, what is a practice we have done that is going to give us at the time of leaving the life air. So that is what we need to understand from this verse and all. So next one, he is telling about how that is Devahuti she was from a very affluent background. And even we all know that after a certain period of time, when Kardama Muni was asking Devahuti, what is it you want to enjoy? Then we all know how she started enjoying the affluent life, how she was enjoying with the husband. She was just traveling through a different planetary airplane, which was made by Kardama Muni. And she was like a typical princess, crown, like sort of so much of affluence she was enjoying that. Now, by practicing the bhakti, she is slowly losing out all this affluence because she is focusing completely into the devotional service. That is what Prabhupada is writing. What are all the conditions, whether you are a brahmachari or a grihastha or a vanaprastha, whatever state is, you need to control your senses. That is, sense gratification can be controlled is by what? Eating less and sleeping less and focusing all our attention towards the Supreme Personality. So that is what he is mentioning here. Devahuti was following the completely scriptural injunctions and she has been following everything meticulously. So she slowly, it is an indication that when she is losing her weight and losing the actual charm, it means she is progressing spiritually. She is getting the effulgence, so that it is the duty of everyone that not at all to keep focusing into our sense gratification. Even when you are 70 years, 75 years, I have seen so many people, they will ask, I want this type of food, I want this much of taste, it is very, very less, I want to have so much of hot chilies you have to add. So many conditions they put because they are unable to control their senses. So from here, if at all we want to really progress in the spiritual understanding, this type of austerity, how you are controlling your senses, that is very, very important for progressing. Then the next two verses for this day today, I'll be reading 15 and 16. Prajapate kardamasya tapo yoga vijrambitam shvagarhashtayam anaupamyam prartyam vaimanikar api.
Anusuya Mataji, you can read the
Hare
translation.
Krishna.
Kripamai Mataji will read.
Translation by Srila Prabhupada ki jai. The home and household paraphernalia of Kardama, who was one of the Prajapatis, was developed in such a way by dint of his mystic powers of austerity and yoga, that his opulence was sometimes envied by those who travel in outer space in airplanes. Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Purport
Krishna.
Mataji.
Hare Krishna. Shall I read, Mataji?
Yes,
Purport by
Mataji,
Srila
please.
Prabhupada ki jai. The statement in this verse that Kardama
9:30,
Muni's
Mataji.
household affairs
Mataji,
were envied even by
Mataji.
persons who travel
Hare
in outer
Krishna, Hare
space
Krishna. Anusuya
refers to
Mataji.
the denizens of heaven.
Hare Krishna,
Their
Mataji.
airships are not
Hare
like
Krishna,
those we have
Mataji.
invented in the modern age,
Mataji.
which fly only from one country to another.
Mataji.
Their airplanes were capable of going from one planet to another. There are many such statements in the Srimad Bhagavatam from which we can understand that there were facilities to travel from one planet to another, especially in the higher planetary system, and who can say that they are not still traveling? The speed of our airplanes and space vehicles is very limited, but as we have already studied, Kardama Muni traveled in outer space in an airplane which was like a city, and he journeyed to see all different heavenly planets. That was not an ordinary airplane, nor was it ordinary space travel. Because Kardama Muni was such a powerful mystic yogi, his opulence was envied by the denizens of heaven. Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Sloka 16. Payahappena nibagha sayya danta rukma parichadaha ashanani cha haimani sushpa shastaranani cha.
Yeah, Kripamai Mataji, read the translation.
Translation by Prabhupada ki jai. The opulence of the household of Kardama Muni is described there herein. The bed sheets and mattresses were all as white as the foam of milk. The chairs and benches were made of ivory and were covered by clothes of lace with golden filigree. And the couches were made of gold and had very soft pillows. Thank you, Mataji.
Hare Krishna. So basically, these two verses are giving what we are in this material world, thinking that this is the best affluent life I am leading. I am having a big bungalow and I am having an Audi car and I am traveling in first class airplane only. So these are all nothing in front of what is described in this purport. And also another important thing is the jealous. Even the celestial girls are having jealous. Like how in material life we see so much of jealous amongst men, women, so many things and all. So same thing, all the celestial girls got attracted with the way the affluent palace of Kardama Muni, that means Devahuti was thing. So this is what is explained there. So now we'll be trying to understand what these 6 verses are going to give us. So from these 6 verses, we can understand so many things. So many things we can understand and we can take as a lesson. But let us focus on very important things, 3 factors. The first factor is the purpose of life. Because Devahuti was asking that, right? From the sun, she's asking, what do I do? I have to go away from this. So the main purpose of human life is a simple thing, purification of our existence. We need to purify. What is the need for a purification is liberation. Because Srimad Bhagavatam says, Tapo divyam putraka yena shatvam shuddhaye. Through tapasya, through austerity, or whatever mode you are doing in the devotional service, the main condition is to purify the existence, because out of the 84 lakh species of life, the rarest form is the human form, 400,000, 4 lakh. So you purify so that you get liberated. And also what happens is you don't come back again. There is nothing called a rebirth in this material world for you. So tapasya means you have different type of tapasyas. Maybe you can do a chanting, or you can glorify the name, form, attributes of the Lord. So any tapasya which you take, which should be very, very easy for you to perform. That is what the transcendentalist, bhakti, everything they are telling is, it is very easy to perform, but difficult to practice. Even the karma yogi, jnana yogis, ashtanga yogis, so many people are trying to cleanse their, what do you say that, their mind, their senses, the gratification and all. Because as long as you are in this material body, you will be acting like only as an animals. The reason is animal is also having the same habit of eating, mating, protecting, fighting, all those things. Similarly with the human form of life also. But in what way we are different is that the realization, the God consciousness, Krishna consciousness. I don't say it is a consciousness. Even the animals are having so much of consciousness. They are better than the human being. But in what way we are better is we need to develop the consciousness of God consciousness, because only in the human civilization only this is possible. The reason is we are all part and parcel of the Supreme Lord. Always we are from the eternal abode only. But unfortunately, due to the revolting nature of human beings, Lord Krishna has arranged a separate material planet so that he wanted us, like how a loving mother gives the chocolate to the children, despite knowing that eating too much of chocolate is going to harm their health. But still, they are giving and they are all monitoring, they are all observing. So similarly, Krishna is also arranging a platform for us so that we can progress in the spiritual life. And anything for the pleasure of Krishna is an austerity. So we need to develop in the human form of life, we need to develop austerity. Means sometimes people are fear of austerity. Sometimes people are saying, oh, if I join ISKCON, then I have to lose everything. So I don't want to come to ISKCON. So let me do whatever is easy for me. So they go to the demigod worship, they do some charity, they will be feeding poor people. So they try to accumulate so much of, what do you say that, pious deeds, punya they accumulate. And what is happening is they keep on coming back and all. But anything for the pleasure of Krishna is an austerity. So that is what Prabhupada is writing in the purport. In one of the purports he writes, one who is engaging in the devotional service, following the regulative principles. Why the regulative principles are given is because you do not have to get contaminated. Once you are following the regulative principles, automatically the purification is starting. So the material desires are completely getting faded away from such things when we are following the regulative principles. So it is sort of a very, very easy thing for follow for the Krishna's pleasure. When I was reading Leelamrita, in one of the small portions where Prabhupada is writing, it was very much a thought-provoking statement given by Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada, we all know that, right? When he went, first he landed into Butler, a place near Pennsylvania, where Gopal Agarwal took, and he was taking Prabhupada with him, and he was staying in there. And Gopal Agarwal's wife is a foreigner, Sally Agarwal. So after like Prabhupada has established so many things, and she realized that Prabhupada is not an ordinary human being and all. So they have taken some interview from Sally Agarwal, all the ISKCON devotees. After that, they were taking, because she is a very, very fortunate lady, despite being a foreigner, despite smoking, drinking, eating meat and all. She had the greatest fortune of serving Srila Prabhupada, staying with Srila Prabhupada. So they were all asking. So she is telling, the easiest guest I ever had in my life is Srila Prabhupada, because she is very busy with the children, busy with the husband, and doing a lot of day-to-day routine, and she has to go for work. She comes and she takes some little rest, nap, all these things. But still she says, Prabhupada has never expected me to serve him. In turn, he used to cook and he used to give us the food. Prasadam he used to give us. So that is the level of Srila Prabhupada. And she is telling, Prabhupada is always engaged in chanting, always engaged in typing. That means he used to do the purport, typing, all those things, Srimad Bhagavatam and all. In Butler, when Prabhupada went there, he was completely alone. You just compare Prabhupada of India and Prabhupada of USA. So who is very busy? Prabhupada of India is very busy, right? He has to get up early in the morning, go to Mangalarti, he has to attend so many classes, he has to give lectures, he has to meet so much of devotees. So many things he's tied up when he was in India. Whereas when he went to Butler, he was completely no work at all. He's something like, but still he made the day as very busy for him. That is what Sally Agarwal is telling. We never find Prabhupada was taking rest. Only a small hour of rest he used to take. And it is not like when we go to any overseas center and all overseas country or something like that. Other than going to ISKCON temple, immediately we will ask our guests, can you take us to these important places in your country, any memorial, any good spot, any tourist attraction place, and all these things. And we will keep our visit of the particular country very busy for us. So Prabhupada has never asked anything like that. Prabhupada has never told Sally Agarwal or Gopal Agarwal, I wanted to see how Butler is there, what are all the things it is there. Nothing. He doesn't have any material desire at all. Always he was busy. So we need to cultivate a life. We need to have a regulative leading of our life in such a way that we are all very much engaged. So I am very, very happy this Inner Consciousness Forum. Just I see around 50 people are there in this morning hours. So many people, you could have easily put your time in a different angle. So many serials are happening in the television. So many things are happening outside the world. But still, you have put so much of your time. You wanted to progress in the spiritual life. So that is all Srila Prabhupada's mercy that he has made our ISKCON. So we are all engaged in different aspects of devotion. So that is what is important. That is the austerity. Because you are foregoing all your pleasures and doing it, right? So this is why they are telling practicing bhakti, it is easy. But if they feel, oh, what is that? 1 hour, 1.5 hours every day I have to listen, it will be difficult for me. If they feel, it is difficult for them. But just attending a class and listening to the glories of the Supreme Lord, it's very, very easy. Whether it is a yagna, japa yagna, sankirtan yagna, preaching, everything is a yagna only. Whatever you do, cooking prasadam is a yagna, austerity. It is like you are engaging yourself for the pleasure. Eating prasadam, even eating prasadam is also a yagna, because you are pleasing the Supreme Lord. You are getting the mercy of the Supreme Lord through all these activities. So this is what we need to understand very much. And also how we have to get interest in this bhakti, how to get ourselves attracted towards the practice of bhakti. Because bhakti means you are coming out completely, becoming free from your material entanglement. And then you are entering into the kingdom of God. That is what Brahma, he being the first living being, he says, Tene Brahma Kridaya Adi Kavaye. He says, despite I am the Adi, that means I am the first, but still he cannot learn anything from there. He admits, in spite of my perfect knowledge in the Vedas, I am unable to know the glories of the Supreme Lord. Because knowing the glories of the Supreme Lord, understanding the Supreme Lord, Veda means what? Veda means it is only to understand the Supreme Lord. Simply by reading all the Vedas, persons cannot understand the glories of the Supreme Lord. That's what Brahma is telling. Greatest Brahma himself is telling. So, so-called Vedantist, they know that absolute truth is so much and all. That is, they are the Vedantists, right? But what is happening is, without having the Bhakti Vedanta, what is the meaning of a Bhakti Vedanta means? If you are not trained, Vedanta is philosophy of the scriptures, that is the Vedas. Add Bhakti into that. Bhakti means devotional service. Devotional service means you are understanding the Supreme Lord. So the self-realization is coming, and realization about the personality of Godhead is coming through the Bhakti. So there are two aspects. When people are talking about the self-realization is only the Vedantist. That means I am not the body. Okay, you are not the body. Then the Jnani, what he does, he is going and trying to merge with the Supreme. Because he knows I am not the body, so I wanted to merge with the Supreme. But here, through the Bhakti, you are understanding the Supreme Personality of the Godhead, because His glories. So that is why Bhakti Vedanta means somebody is knowing both. So we need to develop ourselves to the Bhakti Vedantist. We need to be master in the Vedas. We need to understand everything. Srimad Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita, Chaitanya Charitamrita, everything we need to understand. At the same time, we need to engage ourselves in glorifying the Supreme Lord, serving the Supreme Lord, serving the devotees of the devotees of the devotees of the Lord. We have to engage. In Brahma Samhita, it says Vedeshu Durlapam. That means simply by studying a Vedanta, you cannot understand. Adurlabam Atma Bhaktav. That means if you are understanding about the devotees of the Lord and the devotees of, that is about the Supreme Personality, you will be becoming more eligible for liberating from this material life. Even we all know the story of Vyasadeva, right? Vyasadeva, despite performed so many illustrious Puranas, everything he has written, but unfortunately, he was not able to get the taste of what he has achieved. Then his spiritual master Narada Muni, that is the association with the great devotees. Narada Muni, he understood that above this Vedanta Sutras, glorification of the Supreme Lord. So the Srimad Bhagavatam came, and the absolute truth. So many people were able to understand the absolute truth. Lord Krishna himself is telling, right? Janma karma chame divyam evam yoveti tatvataka. You need to understand the glories of the Supreme Lord, the leelas of the Supreme Lord. If you read the Varaha avatar, that is appearance of Lord Varahadev, the first Varahadev, when he is appearing in the Falashruti, what is the meaning of a Falashruti is what happens to somebody who knows, who understands, who listens, who chants the glories of the Supreme Lord. So it's a very beautiful verse in that particular chapter in the Varaha appearance, where it says, Maitreya Muni is advising Vidura, because when this Varaha Dev has appeared, Brahmadev and so many Brahmanas, Devatas in all the planetary systems, they were all glorifying the Supreme Lord. So after Varahadev has lifted the earth and kept the Bhumandal outside, because it was completely submerged in the water due to the Mahapralaya. So the first appearance of Varahadev is only to lift. Only in the Neela Varaha, in the second time when he is appearing, Hiranyakashipu was killed. So the first Varahadev appearance, he was only lifting the earth and keeping it in the place, so that Swayambhuva Manu and Shatarupa can create the progeny and they can rule the kingdom. That is how the things were happening there. So there in one of the verses, that is in the Falashruti, Ko nama loke purushartha sharavit pura katana bhagavat kata shudam apiya karna anjalipir bhava apaham aho virajayate veena naretaram. What is the meaning of this sloka is, if a person is not enjoying the glories of the Supreme Lord, if the person is not showing an interest in understanding the glories of the Supreme Lord, he is considered as an animal. So they are all telling that when Varahadev has appeared, it's a very beautiful chapter there. Varahadeva's appearance and how he was glorified, how the beauty were explained in that verses. So in the Falashruti, they are telling, so we are all so much happy we got that. If we are not at all enjoyed your presence, your appearance, we are all equal to an animal life. That's what Prabhupada is writing in those purports. He says, if somebody is refusing to drink the nectar of the glories of the Supreme Lord, they are treated as an animal. So, how this bhakti is getting developed for us is through all these leelas only. If somebody is asking you, which is easy for you to serve, whether to serve Krishna's instruction or Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's instruction or Jagannath, Lord Jagannath, whom we are considering as very easy to practice. When we are telling that I want to serve Lord Krishna, he says, Anukulyena Krishnanu Seelanam. He says, whatever activities you are performing should be pleased to Lord Krishna. Whereas unfortunately, what is happening is many of the people are doing for their own Sheelanam. When whatever is pleasing for them, whatever is easy for them, they are doing that service to the Lord Krishna. So they feel it is difficult for us to perform Anukulyena Sheelanam. Similarly, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was telling you people don't have to do anything. Simply chant Hare Krishna Mahamantra. So chanting of Hare Krishna Mahamantra is also becoming very difficult for the devotees. They says, Prabhuji, I didn't get time to chant today 16 rounds. Earlier, which was 64 rounds when Bhakti Siddhanta was there, but it was subsequently reduced by Srila Prabhupada when many of his devotees were telling, Prabhupada, how come we can chant 64 rounds? We have so many other activities to do, so many other devotional service to be doing. So it was reduced to 16. Even that 16, people are finding it very, very difficult to chant. So even Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's instruction is also, we are finding it extremely difficult to follow. Then when we come to Lord Jagannath, eating of Jagannath Prasadam gives you the mercy of the Godhead. So in all these three aspects, you are getting the mercy of the Supreme Lord. So similarly, eating Prasadam of Jagannath, which is very, very easiest, anybody can do. Any unqualified person can also do that because he has to simply go and whatever prasadam they give, we have to eat only that prasadam. So that is what Srila Prabhupada has done when he went to Western countries, right? All these hippies, they have no basic understanding about what is the scripture, what is the regulative principles. They were all very strong in not following the regulative principles. We all know that, right? So these peoples, how they got attracted is prasadam. So equivalent to prasadam is Leela. Leela is simply a story. If you say a child a small story about something, they will be very keen to understand. Maybe after slowly, when they understanding all the story, the curiosity develops, the inquisitiveness develops for them, and they will be keep asking, who is this person who is doing all these leelas? How come he is taking? So slowly they gain the knowledge on the Supreme Lord. So understanding the leela is very, very important. Then only the interest can come on the bhakti. The last point for us to understand why bhakti is not coming to us. The reason is we are all very much attached with the affluence. That is what in these verses, Devahuti has simply ignored the affluence. The affluence is the best of the best of the best she enjoyed, which she simply thrown out everything and she was practicing bhakti. And that is the reason she completely lost her weight and she was pale and thin and so many things, ugly looking girl, ugly looking woman she became. So how to overcome the attachment is we need to understand, because basically we are having two things, right? One is material contamination, another one is the material desire. So what do you mean by contamination and what do you mean by desire? Can anyone answer? What is a material contamination and what is a material desire? We
Because
heard
of
so many
the
things.
material desire, our soul will be contaminated, Prabhu.
Yeah, you can explain. Almost you are coming to the point. Contamination, what do you mean by contamination? What do you mean by desire?
Contamination is going away from Krishna and not really focusing ourselves on what is supposed to be. And that
Okay.
happens because of the so much attachments what we have, material attachments what we have.
Hmm. Okay. Okay.
As
Sort of.
initiated by the
Material desire is
Hare
something
Krishna.
that we are all here because that is the reason, only reason, because we are all here in this material world. And contamination is the attachment that we have with the people around us, and we stay back here only,
Okay.
not able to liberate.
Okay.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Okay. Almost
Material
the
desire is
understanding
to
is almost
lord
okay.
over material. Material desire is our desire to lord over material nature. Be like
Also,
Krishna.
that's a
That is
contamination.
the material desire.
And material desire is coming.
Okay. Let us
Prabhuji,
continue.
Can be kama, krodha, lobha, moha also, because we are contaminating our mind and consciousness. Can that also be?
Yeah, sort of a different understanding, different thing is. But actually, it's very, very simple only. We all have learnt about what is a contamination, what is a desire. So the contamination thing is, first of all, we are talking about I, right? I am an Indian, I am an American, I am an educated person, I am a crorepati, I have this much of wealth, I go only in the Audi car. All these things, when we are maintaining dual identity, that is a contamination, right? Your identity is what? You are only the dasanu, 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 dasan. That is identity. But unfortunately, what is happening is, we are identifying ourselves with a temporary identity, which is not going to be permanent for us. For adding the temporary identity, we are adding so much of attachment, so much of desires. So the contamination is, I am not the body. I am a soul. I am a spirit soul. I am serving the Supreme Lord. But since we are maintaining the dual identity, to strengthen our thinking of dual identity, we are adding so much of attachments. That means we are adding so much of, it is like a bag, and how you are decorating that bag. So the contamination, the dual identity, you are adding so many things. I want Dhanam, I want Dhanam, I want Janam, I want Sundarim, I want Kavita. That is what Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is telling, right? Na Dhanam, na Janam, na Sundarim, na Kavita. So we are trying to add, I want a lot of money. I want a lot of people wanted to follow me. I want beautiful wife. I wanted to be a highly literate person so that I get the name and fame in the society. So many things are attached to that. So this is the material contamination. This is the material desire. So everybody knows that dukkhalayam asashvatam. But how to overcome that is, we should have the vairagya. Prabhupada says that vairagya, freedom from the material desire, from the material contamination, is the vairagya. I think somebody was using that. So identify the material achievement, identify this contamination. You need to completely come out. Kanaka kamini kirti. That is, you want everything. That is the desire for you. Even a small child, you go and ask him, he will give so many things. I want to become a pilot. I want to become an engineer. I want to become a doctor. But nobody will say that I want to become a devotee. Okay, it is a small child. It is not there. But still, the duty of the parents are to educate what is that this guy has to get some good qualities, to serve others, to respect others, to move with others as a friendly, all this, to show the compassion. So all these things are taken away. So whatever they are telling is, from the childhood itself, they talk for the dual identity only. So that is what he says, through the association of the devotees, all these things, all these desires, all these things can be eliminated completely. Narada, we know. What is the meaning of Da means? Da means one is bestowing. Narayanan. So he is bestowing Narayanan everywhere, who is giving the mercy of the Supreme Lord, Narada. We all know the story of Prahalad. We all know the story of, Dhruva Maharaj, with the association of Narada Muni, and through the prayers, how come their life turned into one of the Mahajana type of devotees they become, right? So through the association, we are getting the complete understanding about how we have to disassociate ourselves with that. Prabhupada was jokingly telling Tamal Krishna Goswami Maharaj, one of the very, very famous in our movement in the initial days. He's a foreigner. So generally foreigners, English is little, they have certain practice to tell their day-to-day things and all. So whenever Prabhupada talks to Tamal Krishna Goswami Maharaj used to tell, I know Prabhupada, I know Prabhupada. So he used to tell everything, I know. So Prabhupada stopped telling anything. So he was telling, Maharaj, what happened? He was asking, Prabhupada, what happened? You are not at all telling anything to me nowadays. He says, because you said you know everything, right? So why should I go and tell? So I have completely stopped telling you. So same thing, we are also, whenever we go and attend some classes, maybe we are going to some Bhagavat Saptaham or some Sunday feast lectures or something like that we are going. When the speaker starts Hiranyakashipu, immediately everybody will say, oh, this man is going to talk about Hiranyakashipu. I know Hiranyakashipu. I know Prahalad. When somebody says Dasaratha Muni, oh, he's talking about Ramayana. I know Ramayana. I know what Ramchandra Bhagavan went in the forest, how much he struggled. So immediately we completely switch off our mind. Within the first 5 minutes, when the speaker says, today is Hiranyakashipu, completely our mind is switched off. Subsequently, whatever the speaker speaks, it doesn't go into our mind because radio is switched off. No sound is going inside the brain. But the speaker, maybe he is giving something different than what you have not heard anything earlier. Or maybe the speaker is telling the same thing what you heard earlier, but the speaker realization you may not know. How the speaker is talking, what is his understanding on the bhakti. Every time you are doing hearing, what happens is the purification is taking place. So completely the purification has to happen. So we should not switch off. This is one of the qualities for a person to progress in the devotional service. The humbleness, because unknowingly you are exhibiting your arrogance when you are sitting in the class and telling, oh, this I know, this class I know, means your arrogance has come out there. And you are even some cases when the speaker is telling something, the listener is saying, oh, what nonsense he's talking here. I have never heard anything like that. I have never never heard, never read anything like this and all. So he considers himself as if he is superior. The person who is sitting in the Vyasasana is equivalent to Vyasadev. Correct? Almost like a Vyasadev, he has been empowered to speak. But the listener sitting outside, exhibiting the arrogance unknowingly, and he feels that he is better than the speaker. So this is what is happening when people are not in favor of. Bhakti Tirtha Swami Maharaj, he was telling, unless you sweat at peace, peace means there is no war, nothing. The country is completely peaceful. Unless you sweat at peace, you have to bleed during war. Bleeding means what? Bleeding of blood. So similarly, when we have plenty of free time, Radhesham Prabhu is telling, a person's real identity can be known only when he is alone. All this demonic thinking, all these asuras will come to you. They will get associated with you when you are alone. So that is what, unless you sweat at peace, unless you are completely practicing during wartime, if the weapons are not working, if the soldiers are not equipped, not trained, what will happen? The battle will be in favor of the enemies. So most of the countries, they used to have a mock training, right? They used to always train the people, always see that whether the equipments are working fine or not. So all these things, a devotee has to keep on constantly, he has to practice. If you are not constantly practice, what will happen is the subtle body is completely with the three modes of material nature, it gets corrupted and it throws the human life into the animal life. Because you can go into any of the life if you practice properly. Even you can become a demigod also. But unfortunately, you have to take birth again only. So how you are using your sattva guna and how you are practicing bhakti, how you are associating. Because the Lord Krishna himself is telling, right, all these three modes are properly, that is, it is a divine energy of the Supreme Lord. It is very, very powerful. Daivihi yesa gunamayi mamamayi duratyaya. So it is very, very powerful, but only when you surrender, completely surrender and go to the Supreme Lord and understand, then the Supreme Lord cannot be easily reached. So you need to cross beyond all these things. What is a surrender? When we are talking about the surrender, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, when he is meeting Rupa Goswami, he has met earlier also, but when he was meeting at Gaya, he started, that is Prayag, like the Kashi, Varanasi we are telling, right? He was meeting, at Prayag, he was meeting Rupa Goswami. So this is the place where the complete bhakti, in the particular chapter in Chaitanya Charitamrita, you can understand, Mahaprabhu has empowered the knowledge of bhakti, science of Krishna to Rupa Goswami through this conversation. So the difference between Ramananda Raya and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu conversation is, it is not a one-way conversation. Both were discussing. Whenever Ramananda Rai was telling something, Mahaprabhu was objecting, he was rejecting it. Then finally, when he was talking about the prema, then he was glorifying that what it has to be. Then there was a question and answer sessions. Mahaprabhu was asking question, Ramananda Rai was telling. But whereas in this particular meeting, Rupa Goswami, Mahaprabhu was completely giving everything. He was telling how to perform the bhakti. So he was starting from the 84 lakh species of life. And what is an Atma? What is the size of the Atma? What is that they have to perform? So all these things, based on that only, Rupa Goswami has written Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, Nectar of Devotion. So here, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is telling, Anya Vancha, Anya Puja Chadi, Jnana Karma, Anukulya Sarvendriya Krishna Anu Silana. He says, without any desire, a person has to serve Lord Krishna. So the same sloka, Rupa Goswami has written in the NOD. What Mahaprabhu is written is, Anya Vancha, Anya Puja Chadi, Jnana Karma, Anukulya Sarvendriya Krishna Anu Silana. That means you have to engage yourself in the service of the Supreme Lord without any desire for your senses, whereas to please the Supreme Lord. So Rupa Goswami wrote the same thing in the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, Anya Bilashita Sunyam Jnana Karmati Anavrutam Anukulyena Krishnanu Silanam Bhakti Uttama. So a person's bhakti, how it is considered as the topmost, how it is considered as Uttama is how you are serving the Supreme Lord. So this is the Dharma, the instruction of the Supreme Lord to be followed and served to the Supreme Lord. The Dharma means an instruction of Lord Krishna is completely followed. When Yudhishthira Maharaj during the Kurukshetra battle, he had his own Dharma. He says, I will never tell lie. That is my Dharma. They want to kill Dronacharya, right? To killing Dronacharya is not easy. Until Ashwatthama is killed, Dronacharya is not going to be killed. So Lord Krishna was playing a trick that he wanted to tell that Ashwatthama is killed. That has to be told to Dronacharya. Dronacharya will never listen to anybody. He had a great respect for Yudhishthira Maharaj. So if Yudhishthira says that Ashwatthama is killed, then definitely he will lose his life. He will completely give up his life. That is the idea of Lord Krishna. So Krishna is instructing Yudhishthira, follow my instruction. This is my Dharma. Whereas Yudhishthira Maharaja says, no, I will not follow. My Dharma is I will not tell lie. So actually then subsequently, we all know that, right? Ashwatthama hataha kunjaraha. Hatha means an elephant. An elephant by name Ashwatthama is killed. So like that, he said, Yudhishthira, you tell. And an elephant was killed for that sake because Yudhishthira wanted to tell only the truth only. This is the Dharma for Yudhishthira. So if we wanted to be a sincere devotee of the Supreme Lord, we need to follow the Dharma of the Supreme Lord. That is what Krishna is telling, right? What is that he is telling is, completely surrender unto me. Whatever faith, whatever religion, whatever you are following, completely throw this out. Sarva Dharman Paridyacha Mamekam Sharanam Vraja. Come and just surrender. Throw out whatever Dharma you feel that is a Dharma for you. Just to throw out. Come and surrender to me. So this Dharma, Artha, Kama, Moksha means if we are developing the Dharma, that means if we are in the Artha means an economic development, right? If the economic development to satisfy our senses, Kama, if it is as per the Dharma, as per the instruction of the Supreme Lord, then the Moksha is attained. So we need to completely follow the instruction of the Supreme Lord. Dharmam tu sakshat bhagavat pranitam. So if we follow the instruction of the Supreme Lord, which is given by the followers of the Supreme Lord, by the parampara system, by the spiritual masters, then definitely our life will be successful and we will be in the material ashram, in this grahastha ashram. We can also become a Devahuti and we can also take the instruction of our spiritual masters, like how the Kapila Dev was given. So how the spiritual masters are giving, how the scriptures are giving, how our devotees are giving. If we follow that sincerely in the same ashram itself, we can go back home, back to Godhead. So this is the understanding on our thing. And the last two verses, we all know that it is simply explaining about the affluence of Devahuti's things. So with that, I'll be ending this class. So if you want to add anything or if you have any doubts, let us. Yes,
Hari.
Divya Gopa Mataji. What is that, Mataji?
Hare Krishna Prabhu, wonderful class Prabhu. Thank you so much. Prabhu, my question is around this dharma, artha, kama, moksha, which you just explained, Prabhu. Can you please explain what is it and how are we supposed to learn that cycle?
First cycle is an economic development, right? Everybody in this material life, what is happening is they are trying to look for their economic development. So when this economic development happens, you need to draw a line of your enjoyment, your necessity, your needs. If you have a small house to stay comfortably and practice your devotional service, that is your limit. But unfortunately, what happens is we are looking for a house in a very affluent area and we want a 6 bungalow, that is 6-room bungalow, 5-room bungalow, an independent villa, where after all we are going to stay in a small room with a 6 inches, 3 inches cot is enough for us to lie down. But our necessities are not ending. We wanted to put ourselves in comparison with our neighbors, our relatives, our friends. Oh, he's so rich. I wanted to be equal to him. So when this Artha, economic development, is only you are meeting your needs. Similarly, Kama is a sense gratification, right? What is that sense gratification you can have is also defined. If you want to produce a children, if you want to produce a Krishna conscious children, there is no limitation for your sex. But unfortunately, what is happening is they go to any extent other than the wife also, they go and they wanted to enjoy the sense gratification. And also eating is, you need to have the gratification of eating only the prasadam. When we are in the home, we prepare and we offer, oh, today my guests have come, I have to take them for some restaurant. So we are going outside and we are going to eat outside. So this is a sense gratification. You need to draw a line on that. So that is what it says. Artha and Kama, if it is followed as per the Dharma, as per the instruction of the Supreme Lord, as per the instruction of the scriptures, if you follow that, automatically moksha comes to you, automatically liberation comes to you. So that is what I told in one of the purports, Prabhupada is writing. If you chant and follow the 4 regulative principles properly, you will get the liberation. So the same thing is put in this word, dharma, artha, kama, moksha. If this 2, artha, kama is followed as per the dharma, moksha is followed. The regulative principles, what Prabhupada is telling. So with that, remembrance of the Supreme Lord by chanting the holy name, because we have no time. I have so many other things to explain also, how the Kulashekara's Mukuntamala is explaining, Antakalecha Mameva Smaran Muktva Kalevaram. So by practicing that chanting regularly, you are able to remember the Supreme Lord at the time of leaving the body. So this is our understanding.
Thank you so much, Prabhu. Wonderful explanation. Thank you so much, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, I think your video is off.
Is it?
Yes, Prabhu. Now
Okay,
it's
maybe.
on, but we can't see you, Prabhu. It's all black screen. Now it's okay. Yeah.
Anything else?
Yeah, Suma Mataji has one question, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna,
Yes.
Mataji. Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Pranams, Prabhuji. Prabhuji, in today's class, with reference to that, my question is like, I'm a practicing devotee. So at my home, nobody is practicing other than me. So I just have a question, Prabhuji. Now there are forms being distributed to apply for Diksha. So with respect to today's class, I have this doubt. Like we being grihastas, our main duty is to serve the family, husband and children. And there is another superior dharma of connecting with the Lord and serving Him. So, Prabhuji, when it comes at a point like wherein you'll have to choose a family or Supreme Lord, how can we go about, Prabhuji, like taking up Diksha, leaving the family, because they are all eating non-veg still. So, how can we take a decision, Prabhuji? Like, is it like whatever the application that has been forwarded to us, is it like Krishna sending it to us? Like, how I'm not able to make out any, this thing, Prabhuji. I'm not able to take any decision on this. Please guide me, Prabhuji. Hare
Okay.
Krishna.
Nice one. Yeah, everybody is facing this problem in day-to-day life. If you travel in the flight, the announcement what they give is, The oxygen tube is on the top. So first, in case of any emergency, use that oxygen for yourself first, and then you can help your co-passengers. So the first instruction given to us is to protect us. So the same thing in our human life, in the spiritual life, is we need to protect ourselves, because in this rarest form of life, whatever is the best opportunity takes, we need to avail that opportunity. We need to progress in the spiritual life. This is one aspect of understanding. The second aspect is aparadas. When you are practicing Krishna consciousness, I don't know whether your family members are favorable for you to chant, or they are always making some ridiculous comments, or they are not favor that you are spending some time for chanting. If somebody is in that situation, that is, the family members are not at all supporting, then this becomes an aparat, because they may start criticizing, they may start talking very bad about Lord Krishna or the Krishna's devotees or something like that. So if at all you want to practice, if they are very favorable, you can only pray to Lord Krishna that things have to be changed, so that Krishna gives the intelligent that definitely these people also will stop all this, maybe eating non-vegetarian or drinking liquor or something like that. This will be stopped. So they will allow. But in this condition, you should not allow yourself to compromise. Maybe you have to cook separately for your thing, and you can offer that to the Supreme Lord, and you can try to take it as a prasadam. And sincerely you practice devotional service, sincerely you chant, associate with the devotees. Rest assured, 100% I am telling you, you will get a very, very pleasant surprise soon from Krishna and his devotees.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much, Prabhuji. Your words will come true, Prabhuji, in this
Hare
session of
Krishna.
Bhagavatam. Hare Krishna. Thank you so much, Prabhuji. Hoping
Hare Krishna.
that
Hare
I'll have
Krishna.
a blessed Hare Krishna. All of us, Prabhuji. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Hare Krishna. Hari Hari Bol. Prabhu, there are many messages. They liked your session. We all liked your session,
Hare Krishna.
especially the insights on these six shlokas. So very, very grateful to you, Prabhu. So here we will end the session, because there's no one who wants to ask a question. And
Yes.
you have already answered, many doubts which people have. I just have a small thing, Prabhu, because yesterday in our class there was a conversation about that one person, if in their house people are eating non-veg or egg, and one lady, if she is totally devoted to Krishna and they are doing their 16 rounds and follow the Ekadashi and follow the principles, can they take the initiation, Prabhu?
See, this is how the spiritual masters, and when you people are recommending, because like 6 people, that is 6 type of offenses, especially for meat. One who is killing the animal, one who is helping to prepare the meat, one who is cooking, one who is distributing, one who is eating. So everybody is making the same offense. Okay. They are not the followers of the regulative principles. So they get the impious deeds fall for that activities. So the spiritual master whom under they are looking for a shelter or a diksha and all, it is they have to decide. I'll just share one real incident which has happened in our group. He's a very great devotee. His family was perfectly following everything. They were eating non-vegetarian. They stopped everything and they were doing it. Unfortunately, this guy was a driver. He was working in a company where the processed meat he has to carry. I was at Dubai that time. So getting a job in Dubai is not very easy and all. Somebody has to sponsor from India, and through that visa only they have to come. So this particular company has processed this guy. And when he landed in the UAE, he got attracted with ISKCON and he joined and he was practicing. So he was able to meet His Holiness Jayapataka Swami Maharaj. So the same type of a question was asked. So Maharaj told, if at all you want to progress in spiritual life, if at all you want to take initiation in this movement, you should not associate yourself with this also, carrying the processed meat in the vehicle. He is simply a driver only. Whatever containers are given to him, he will keep that in the driving vehicle and he will be carrying that. So he says, this is subjected and you will not be connected to this movement. It's all Krishna's arrangement. He got that very good enlightenment. So Krishna has arranged, he got subsequently another job, he practiced, then subsequently he was recommended by the authorities and he was initiated now. So similarly, this decision has to be taken, and to be very precisely to give answer from my side, it should not be encouraged unless things are improving.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you so much, Prabhu, because few people asked this question, so I thought to clarify it from you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Prabhu. So we'll end the session here. Pancha
Vaishnavebhyo Namo.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
One more class, Prabhuji.
Thank you,
Thank
Prabhuji.
you so much, Prabhuji. Pranam to you.
Thank you very
Hare
much.
Krishna.
Can give us one more class, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna, Pranam
Thank you,
Prabhuji.
Prabhuji.
Krishna's arrangement.
Definitely, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Hare
Shall I end
Krishna.
the session?
Hare Krishna. Thank you.